This is Artful Discourse, your weekly escape into the vibrant world of creativity, culture, and intellectual exploration. I'm your host, Benjamin Kirk, and I invite you to join me on a journey through the rich tapestry of human thought and the beating heart of artistic expression at Fresno State's College of Arts and Humanities. In February, students in the Interior Design and Architectural Studies program presented their Fresno Area Express bus stop projects at Fresno City Hall. These innovative designs aim to provide shade to bus riders in the heat of summer while adhering to accessibility standards. The designs were presented with 3D printed scale models along with presentation posters and 3D renderings. Attendees at the City Hall event were able to vote for their favorite designs. The most popular designs move forward to engineering students who will continue the process. The end goal is to actually build prototypes and, if successful, roll out these designs across the city of Fresno. Now, the Fresno Area Express, or the FAX, bus stop project was funded by the Fresno State Transportation Institute in a collaboration with the Lyles College of Engineering and the Intelligent Design Visualization Lab in the School of Art, Design, and Art History. Joining us today are two students from the Interior Design program in the School of Art, Design, and Art History, Jachelle Jimenez and Lee Miyamoto. Welcome to both of you.
Hello, thank you for having us.
Hello.
I want to start off by having you introduce yourselves. What's your major? When do you plan to graduate?
Hello, my name is Jachelle. I am an interior design student, and I'm graduating this spring.
All right.
Hello, I'm Lee. I am an interior design student and I am also graduating this spring.
And Lee, I talked to you a few weeks ago. You are actually the student of distinction in the School of Art, Design, and Art History this year.
Yes, I was. Thank you.
So congratulations for that and job well done.
Thanks.
So what are your plans following graduation, both of you?
Probably take a break for a few months and then work locally here in Fresno.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking to see if I can get hired at a firm currently, in town. Not sure about a break, but maybe if time permits.
So a question for both of you again. What do you love about interior design?
I mean, interior design's neat because you kind of get to express a lot of creative freedom in your work, rather than just like adhering to like I guess a set standard, sort of like engineering. And then also it's like partially architecture, which I find fascinating.
What do you find fascinating about architecture?
Just like like how a building's constructed, structures, stuff that goes in a building, flows. I guess just buildings in general.
Mhm.
Like he said, I like interior design because you get to be really creative. I also like picking materials. um, yeah.
I feel like it's kind of an art form where you actually exist within the art.
Yeah, you get to express like what you're feeling sometimes. That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like tangible where like somebody can literally walk through like your work once you finish, which that's neat.
Mm-hmm. So how was it working in the Intelligent Design Visualization Lab? What technologies were you able to utilize for this project?
We use Revit to make the models, and then Enscape to do like the renderings, bring it to life. And then when we were doing the presentation in the city hall, we also get to play around with the VR, bring
Mm-hmm.
one of our designs into life.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah, so they had the VR headsets, and you were able to put them on and kind of
Yeah.
be in the design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Looking at the renderings, Jachelle, you sent over some renderings,
Yes.
and you said these were renderings from kind of across all of the students' designs,
Yes. Mhm.
and so these are bus stops. Basically, people go wait for the bus, get on the bus, and this is around Fresno, so it gets hot in Fresno during the summer, and this is basically providing shade. So there's different designs for different orientations, and then there's a design for all orientations. Can you guys talk about a little bit about the process that went into that?
Yeah, so we did like research in the beginning, and then we come up with the designs and presented that in front of like the client, see what get their feedback, and then from there we modeled it. Yeah, and then did some renderings.
I mean, a lot of our research is based in like theory. We address things like maybe weight because and budget limitations just because of codes. Again, budgets, climate change, all kinds of factors, and then some of the stops actually. We wanted to incorporate like character to them to make them unique rather than just like a cookie cutter type structure. So.
And they are all unique. So each design is very different from the others. How were you able to figure out where the sun is and how to do the shade, and how exact are you able to get in that process?
So for like the figuring out where the sun is and the shade and everything, we actually ran simulations of like the virtual models that we had. We also looked at the sites pre-hand, some of them physically, most of them were digital, where we were able to find like a digital sun, I guess it would be a sun angle calculator
Hmm.
that would kind of show you like maybe different angles during the day, sun intensity, stuff like that. And we were able to overlay that and kind of get an idea of like, okay, if the sun is here, where would the shadows fall? And then we were able to test it in our rendering simulation as well by their sun. So
So I'm looking at these designs, and I realize this is an audio format. So we are going to have these renderings in our show notes, and then we'll have them up on our blog. We'll have a story about this at FresnoStateCAH.com, and you'll be able to go and look at these designs. But just looking at them, like when I'm looking at the south facing designs, you have a lot of there's a lot of things kind of up front to shade people from the front, and the west, it's the shades to the left and behind, and so it's or it was oh no, west is left and in front. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong ones here. Just so I can describe it, these are 3D renderings, and you're seeing the shadows in those renderings, and you're saying you're able to show how those shadows move throughout the day.
Yeah, we were able to do like shade study where we can change the time and see where that shadow lands during the day.
What was it like to present your designs at City Hall?
Definitely nerve wracking. I'm not really good at like speaking in front of a large crowd, and add to that in front of the mayor. But at the end, felt relief and just proud to be able to present the ideas that we've been working on the past few months.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I kind of second what she said. It was a lot. That city hall place that we were presenting in is literally like one of the like central political chambers of the city, and it's just a lot to be in there and speak. But it was worth it in the end. It was a really neat experience.
Yeah, and then afterwards, you went out in kind of a lobby area outside. I guess I would describe it as, and and you had the poster boards and some 3D models of your designs, and then you were able to actually talk to people a little bit more on a personal level. Tell me about how that was, and what was some of the feedback you got?
So I was facilitating the VR section, but we did have like a technology problem.
Oh no.
But it's pretty neat. They said it's pretty fun to like really experience, like be in like the VR and experience the design. Yeah.
Yeah. Lee, you were you able to talk to some of the people who were out there?
Yes, I was stationed at the Any Direction site, and if anybody had any questions that we didn't cover or information that we missed during the presentation, they were welcome to come up, and we were happy to talk to them about different things. One of the questions for that site in particular actually was, how do we get this thing to be able to spin safely because it is a spinning structure. So we had to explain for this site in particular, we would incorporate like some sort of safety locking mechanism and just the way that we would anchor it to the ground, stuff like that.
Is that the east facing site?
This
or
is
the
the any direction site.
Direction.
inner direction site? Okay. Oh, okay. Those were like panels
Yes.
Basically, yeah.
that would swivel.
Yes, the those panels you can turn manually to face basically the direction of the sun. So no matter what time of day or even any like location it theoretically could be installed in, these could provide shade to some degree at all times during the day. So
And then was that the site that was you said your any direction site was one of the top ones that's going to move on for? Was
Yes.
that the one both the two of you worked on?
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about that as far as what were some of the design constraints you had to work with? And let's start with that. What were some of the design constraints?
Especially specifically the sidewalk, right? It was only about 8 feet wide.
Mm-hmm.
So we really have to think about we have to think about the small version. Um,
basically what happened was that they gave us a set of like generalized standards. Off the top of my head, if I remember correctly, one of them is that you have to have a minimum of 4 feet
four
back
feet,
from like
yeah.
the edge of the curb. That had to be unobstructed just for people to be able to pass through, and then it couldn't be like all the way to the back of the sidewalk. I think there had to be some sort of clearance room. It had to be below a certain height, but high enough where people couldn't like jump up and hang off of it. So just like really kind of like almost contradicting codes, and especially for this small site. So
Did you find those constraints a hindrance, or do you think that kind of helps in the design process? I mean, in the creativity side of it.
I mean, I think it's a double-edged sword because with no constraints, you kind of like almost get lost just because you have like no direction to go. But in this case, like with too many, it's like really hard to think of something that like you could use, but satisfies like all those constraints. Um, Again, this case in particular, I mean, yeah, it provided us this foundation, but it was a very small foundation, so like we are again pretty restricted on what we could do for the site. So.
And so both of you you had the one project that moved forward. Did you have any others that moved forward?
I think it was the south facing with the freestanding single panel and then like kind of the three-legged.
The three looking tree.
Yeah.
This could be like
That one was the other one that we worked on. There's a third person. She unfortunately didn't join us today, but we worked on that with her.
Do those rotate as well? I'm just curious. Or were those
I
fixed?
believe so, yeah.
Did they rotate? Off the top, I actually
You
don't
can
know.
either like go up and down or like
Okay.
I don't remember.
That's all right.
Um,
That's all right.
For that site in particular, actually, it was more aesthetic because you still get a lot of the sun like in the morning and the afternoon, but like at noon, obviously you get that nice like down shade. So
Now, it's my understanding that the presentations in February were kind of the culmination of a 6-month process, roughly. So I'm guessing kind of the beginning of the fall semester.
Summer?
It was over
It
the
was summer, yeah.
we started early June. It was I want it.
Wow.
It might have been late May, right?
No, probably like June.
We
Okay.
started out in June. It was mostly research then, so we didn't actually start like the actual design process until like what July, right?
Hmm.
But yeah, for the first like month or so, it was just all research.
What was involved in the research?
We basically looked up like different, I guess, case studies. We also looked up different like theories, and again, like I mentioned earlier, stuff on like climate change, material resiliency, material weight, cost. Most of it was like climate change because it is tying into like a bigger concept that our one of our faculty are working on, and that is basically to reduce like the heat island effect in Fresno.
Right.
Yeah.
So walk me through that process, starting with the research, and then kind of walk me through what what was the process leading up to that? How did you have a lot of ideas and then you kind of narrowed it down? Did you just kind of have one idea and that more came out of that?
So we did like research, like we did like he said case studies of different bus shelters that have been done before, and just like get some ideas, and yeah, and then we talked about it, like what's good, what we like, and what works and what doesn't work.
Yeah, like you said, we just a lot of reading, research, seeing what we liked. It was funny because actually we brought up two examples that were absolutely horrendous. And they basically told us, yeah, stay away from those. One of them was literally just like a metal box, and we're like, yeah, no, people are gonna straight up cook in that. The other one was literally like a pole with one tiny little like 2 foot by 2 foot like square at the top. Provided no shade, and yeah, so again, just like, okay, we're not using that. But
And then, so what happens after that? You have you do some designs, and then how are those designs created? Do you start on paper? Is it all computer?
Yeah, paper, and then every week we talk to Eurus, one
Mhm.
of the person who works with the FAX, give some ideas, feedbacks, what needs to change, and then from there get our design evolve.
for some of the designs too, we actually started, all three of us might have had like conflicting ideas, so we all just drew one out. We all presented them as like sketches to Eurus or the rest of the team, and we kind of voted on like, okay, which ones do you think we should move forward? And then the ones that we would move forward, we would sketch out again quite a number of times, just to like evolve it, like Jachelle mentioned.
I assume there's accessibility design considerations with all of this too, right?
Yeah, so for accessibility, again, kind of like going back to that minimum 4 foot clearance space, that's one of the accessibility things. Another thing is for the buses as well, just because they need space to like be able to pull up, park, and not like hit the actual design. There needed to be enough space underneath to accommodate somebody who is disabled and in a wheelchair. Also, stuff like if somebody's blind, they're
Mhm.
elderly, they're having trouble walking, like on the ground had to be smooth or like some sort of like guided footpath to the actual bus. Um, visual cues or
Mm-hmm.
audio, stuff like that. Some of them we even have illuminate at night to like cue like, hey, the bus is coming or the bus is like leaving or different kind of considerations like that.
So you're really kind of learning through this process. You're really kind of learning everything that's involved in creating a civic structure that's accessible to everybody. Yeah, it's I think it's kind of a unique thing, and it's going to be really exciting if these get funded and we're able to actually roll these out to the city as well. Are you hoping to see that? I assume you are excited about that.
Yeah, because we work really hard on it, and
Yeah.
being able to see that come to life would be really.
Yeah, yeah. It's-
So, how do you hope your project will impact the community?
Just hopefully bring more people use the bus, more people to use the bus,
Mm-hmm.
um, which will help reduce, like he said, like is it the heat?
Well, the heat,
Heat.
one of the reasons why heat is so prevalent in Fresno is because of all the concrete and asphalt
Mhm.
that exists in the city. So to reduce like the amount of like needed roadways or even traffic congestion, because the emissions from cars do contribute to that as well, would help in general. And then even replacing like some of the materials, like the concrete, for example, with like more heat reflecting materials,
Mhm.
would help the city in the long run.
Yeah, it seems to me like making transportation a little bit more comfortable as far as the waiting time and everything else while you're waiting, especially in the summer, would would hopefully encourage more people to ride public transportation and
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
normalize it because I don't think public transportation in Fresno is as normalized as it is in other cities. where maybe it could be.
In Fresno specifically, it is a widespread national problem here in the US, but in Fresno, again, it's kind of like seen as being something that like you wouldn't take unless, you couldn't afford like a car. So there are negative connotations associated in general with public transport. So we're trying to like figure out how to remove those. So like you stated, people would be more incentivized to take it, and without, I guess, the stigma is what
Yeah.
we're kind of
Yeah.
getting at.
I'm just curious in your research at all. Did you look at what other cities have successful public transportation, and were any of those cities in the heat?
Off the top of our head, I don't remember a specific city. Scratch that. Actually, in some of the research that I specifically came across, I read about articles about like public transportation in cities in Europe and even
Asia.
Asia.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the main difference over in those regions of the world is that they're basically used to public transportation since the entire like cities are built around that.
Right.
America in general is not because it's mostly a car nation. But over there, because everything is so compact and close, trains, buses are often used rather than the automobile. Not to say that they don't use the automobile, but it's more prevalent.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. How do you feel this project will help your career?
Um, I guess it's a great learning experience. Um, Not only I've talked in front of like a crowd, like in the city hall, but maybe it's a way, also a career that I can go to, like urban planning,
Mm-hmm.
that I've never really thought about in the first place. So yeah,
Is that something that maybe you're a little bit more interested in now?
maybe
Yeah.
not much, but yeah.
I mean, kind of like what Jachelle mentioned, where it's good like exercise to connect with like clients. We sat down for, quite a while with the people from the Fresno Area Express Institute, and they gave us feedback. We would talk with them, seeing like what they liked, what they didn't like. So that whole client relationship, it's a good professional skill. And like she also mentioned, the public presentation and the hands-on experience too, like
Mm.
what goes into designing a project while adhering to like regulations and codes.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point because I think a lot of times you're in college and you're kind of just working in your area, and you may get really proficient at design, but you may not get that expertise at working with clients and that back and forth process that goes along with that. And no, I like that really bolsters that, and presentation skills, like you mentioned, being able to stand in front of the mayor of a city
Yeah.
and a bunch of people. I was there. I got there a little bit late, but there was 100, 200 people maybe, and then they all came out and got to look at the designs and talk with you designers face to face and talk about. I'm just curious, was there any because this was a public event, correct? This is
Yes, yes.
this was intended to get public feedback on these designs. Was there any negative? Did you hear any negative at all?
I personally didn't.
Yeah.
Do you
I
have
didn't
any?
hear anything.
So it
It's
was it
good.
was all fairly positive feedback from.
Yeah,
Yeah.
even the mayor, funnily enough, I heard that he was only planned to stay for a couple minutes and
Hmm.
he sat through the entire 2-hour presentation.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, the designs are beautiful. I think all of them, all the ones that I saw were just stunning. I mean, especially when you look at what's out there now,
Hmm.
which is just cold, kind of barely enough kind of thing. And in some cases, people are sitting in full sun on just wide open benches. And these designs, I think, were, I mean, they're not only innovative and functional, but they're beautiful as well. They incorporate art, they incorporate nature. There's a lot of these aspects in there that I thought really appeal to me, and I really hope we get to see these around the city. Is there anything I missed? Anything you'd like to add?
I mean, I think that it was a good like real world, experience because, again, we like actually sat down with real clients. We had like real obligations. It wasn't theoretical. I know a lot of times in like college, everything's theoretical. You typically don't get to work with like, a real situation, but in this case we did. So we got like a taste of what it's actually like to work in the field, which is really cool. So,
Yeah.
Well, thank you both for joining us today. I'm really excited about this. And in fact, I'm working on doing a part 2 for this. And this is with getting some of the faculty to talk about this project as well. And so stay tuned for that. And hopefully we'll get that on the next week or two. Thank you. See you next time. Artful Discourse is a production of the College of Arts and Humanities at California State University, Fresno. The Dean is Dr. Honora Chapman. This program is written, directed, and produced by me, Benjamin Kirk, the college's communication specialist. The theme song for Artful Discourse is Maiden Voyage by Fresno State music professor Benjamin Boone from his album, Joy. More information about his music can be found at benjaminboone.com. Special thanks to KFSR and FSR Underground General Manager Julie Lindahl for making this show possible. You can learn more about the College of Arts and Humanities and find an archive of our shows at our website, cah.fresnostate.edu, or on our blog, fresnostatecah.com.